So getting onto the page where it has these up here, the complex numbers, adding and subtracting complex numbers, etc. We're not going to worry about the top part of the page, but there is a couple questions, or a question on the final that will be like these ones down here that we need to look at. This is where we're going to be multiplying complex numbers, so multiplying some things that involve imaginary numbers together. Here where it says recall, I'm going to put a little note for you. When you take I times I, remember that I is the square root of -1. So this would be saying, I'm going to take the square root of -1 times the square root of -1. The square root of -1 times the square root of -1 would equal -1. So if you take I times I, that's going to equal -1. That will be helpful to keep in mind later on. Anytime you take I times I, that's going to equal -1. So if we have, like number 5, there's 2i in front that we would distribute to the 8 and to the -3i. We would take 2i times 8, 2i times 8, plus 2i times -3i. The 2i times 8 is easy. 2 times 8 is 16, so 2i times 8 would be 16i. And then the 2i times -3i, well, 2 times -3 is -6. And I times I would be, again, that would be the -1 times -1, which the square root of -1 times the square root of -1 is -1. So then we have -6 that we get from the numbers times the -1 that we get from multiplying I times I. -6 times -1 would give us a +6. So this is going to be +6. I know that's a little bit confusing. We're going to do a couple more examples to show you. But with the 2 times the -3, we get -6. With the I times I, we get -1. And -6 times -1 is a +6. Now just put these in the right order. The terms with i's should go after the terms that don't have I. So this should be 6 plus 16i. So on to number 6. We have -I times -2, and then -I times 10i. The -I times -2, and then we'd have -I times 10i. The -I times -2 would be a +2i, because the negative times the negative is a positive, so this would be a +2i. And then the -I times 10i, the negative times the 10 would give you -10, and then the I times I would give you, again, -1 times -1, sorry, the square root of -1 times the square root of -1, which is -1, and -10 times -1 would give you a +10, so this is going to be +10. And this, again, we need to rearrange to put the one that with I last, so we'll put 10 plus 2i instead of 2 plus 10, or 2i plus 10. We'll have 10 plus 2i. I'll try to make a little bit better plus sign there. Okay, down to number 7. Here we have we have 2 terms in front of this set of parentheses, so we're going to need to distribute both of those terms. First, I'm going to distribute the 7 to the 4 and to the -I. So I would take 7 times 4 and then plus 7 times -I. Then I need to distribute this I. So I would do plus I times 4 and then plus I times -I. 7 times 4 is 28. 7 times -I would be -7i. So 7 times 4 give me 28. 7 times -I give me -7i. I times 4 would be plus 4i. And I times -I, the positive I times -I would give us a negative here. And then we have I times I, which is -1, the square root of -1 times the square root of -1, which is -1. So this would give me like -1, which is a +1. So this will be plus 1. Here we have some like terms to combine. I have 28 and plus 1 that I could combine, so that'll give me 29. And then I have negative 7i plus 4i. Negative 7 plus 4 is negative 3, so that would give me negative 3i. On to number 8, we can have two things to distribute. We're going to distribute 2 to negative 5, so 2 times negative 5, and to the 2 to the negative 3i, so plus 2 times negative 3i. Then I'm going to distribute this minus 4i to the negative 5, so minus 4i times negative 5, and minus 4i times negative 3i. For the 2 times negative 5, that would give me negative 10. 2 times negative 3i would give me negative 6i. The negative 4 times negative 5, or negative 4i times negative 5. Negative 4 times negative 5 is a positive 20, so we'd have plus 20i. And then for the negative 4i times negative 3i, negative 4 times negative 3 would be a positive 12. The I times I would be the square root of negative 1 times the square root of negative 1, which is negative 1. And 12 times negative 1 would give me a negative 12. So here I will have a minus 12. Again, we have like terms to combine. Negative 10 and negative 12 would give me negative 22. And negative 6i plus 20i would give me a plus 14i. So negative 22 plus 14i is our final answer. I'm going to go ahead and skip the next two, so skip 9 and 10 and go down to 10, 11 and 12. Here just come some special cases that I want to make sure that you have seen. So we again have things to distribute. We have the 8 times 8 and 8 times negative I. And then we would distribute the I, so I'd do plus I times 8 and plus I times negative I. 8 times 8 is 64. 8 times negative I would be negative 8i. I times 8 would be plus 8i. And then the I times negative I, again, the positive I times the negative I would give us a negative. So this plus I times negative I will give us a negative. And then the square root of negative 1 times the square root of negative 1 is negative 1. So this again would give us a negative 1, the negative from here, and then the negative 1, which is a positive 1. So it's going to be plus 1. So we have like terms to combine again. 64 plus 1 is 65. And then negative 8i plus 8i, those are opposites. Those would cancel out. So in this case, our answer is going to be just 65. The minus 8i and the plus 8i that we got when multiplying cancel each other out, and we get just 65. So let's look at number 12. We have this 5 to distribute to the 5 and to the 4i. So we would do 5 times 5 plus 5 times 4i. Then I would distribute this negative 4i. So negative 4i times 5. And then negative 4i times 4i. The 5 times 5 is 25. The 5 times 4i would be 20i. The negative 4i times 5 would be negative 20i. And then the negative 4i times 4i. Negative 4 times 4 would be negative 16. And then the I times I would be negative square root of 1 times the negative square root of 1, which is negative 1. Negative 16 times negative 1 would be a positive 16. So this would be plus 16. Combine like terms, 25 plus 16 is 41. And 20i minus 20i, again, those are opposites. The plus 20i and the minus 20i would cancel out. And so our answer is just 41. So So that is all we're going to do as far as notes go for these types of problems. I then want you to go down to the assignment, so the one that says Unit 4, Homework 5, Complex Numbers. And I just need you to do problems 5 through 8. For number 7, I'll give you a head start. This -7 plus I squared would mean that this is -7 plus I times -7 plus I. So you want to start by changing this problem into this problem. -7 plus I times -7 plus I. But these 4 problems, 5, 6, 7, and 8, are the ones that I want you to do.